with this being said, I would like to turn today's event to a speech related to the Hindu in Me initiative, the historic Rama. Shri Nilesh Oak ji, many of you would have known, who's the author of When Did Mahabharata War Happen? The Mystery of Arundhati, employing tools of archaeoastronomy and the logic of scientific discovery, coupled with fantastic intuition. Nilesh Oak ji tests with scientific precision observations from the oldest epic of humanity, the Valmiki Ramayana, to date, when the Ramayana actually happened. Here is Rishi Musti, who has been taking notes and following the talks in YouTube, and he had made an humble attempt to summarize and present his research on dating of Ramayana to youth at the Youth Artist Development Association's Jagadananda Karaka event. He is very passionate in spreading the findings of Nilesh Oak ji to this generation, as it is very, very relevant, and he seeks your blessings and guidance as he embarks in this divine and spiritual journey. I would like to thank Nilesh Oak ji for joining in live to see Rishi Musti's presentation today. I would like to welcome Rishi Musti on the stage. No, it's okay. Yeah.
Namaskaram, everybody. My name is Rishi Musti, and today I will be attempting to explain the research of Dr. Nilesh Oak. I will explain how he comes to the date 12,209 BCE for the Ramayana and how we decipher the date of the Ramayana. Before I start, I would like to thank Nilesh Oak ji for conducting this research over the years. And I would like to thank Yara for giving me this chance. So without further ado, I will get into how he gets the name of 2,000, 1,000, 12,225. So the first thing I want to talk about when he tries to decipher the date of the Ramayana is that there can be absolutely no bias. So you have to take into account whether the researcher is fully taking all the evidence or being biased and taking little by little evidence that fits into his theory. And Nilesh Oak, he takes all the evidence and he puts it into a corroborated timeline. And I will explain that right now. So whenever trying to find the date of a particular event, astronomy is always the most accurate form of deciphering a timeline. It can tell every single minute of what happened, when it happened, how it happened. So it is the most reliable source. In some cases, astronomy cannot be done when the script is not deciphered. But in this case, Sanskrit has been used for many millennia, and we know how to read and write it. So, in astronomy, when he comes to the date of the Ramayana, he also accounts references from the Mahabharata. Ya Chaisha Visruta, Rajan Svailoki Sadhu Sammata, Arundhati Taya Pesha, Vasishta Pushtata Kritaha. And this translates to Arundhati has gone ahead of Vasishta. So, when we're thinking about Arundhati and Vasishta, we often think about sages, a sage Vasishta and his wife Arundhati. But in this case, it is an astronomy reference. And in the Mahabharata alone and Ramayana combined, there are over 800 astronomy references. And this is one of them, describing that the Arundhati star, meaning stars in the sky, were even named after the Saptarishis that we know today. And two of them are Vasishta and Arundhati. I'd like to point out that in Western astrology, Arundhati is known as Alcor and Vasishta is known as Mysore. So when we look at the planetary position of the sky today, we can see that Mysore and Alcor, or Vasishta and Arundhati, Vasishta is in front of Arundhati, not Arundhati is in front of Vasishta. Okay, so Arundhati is in front of Vasishta back then, but not now. I'll get into why he comes to that conclusion. So what does that mean? So now, if you look at the planetary positions and we rewind 6,000 years, Vasishta is still in front of Arundhati. Not saying that they didn't change. They definitely would have moved a lot. But the fact that Vasishta was still in front of Arundhati was still there for around 6,000 years, no matter how far back you go. And there's an imaginary line known as the meridian in the sky. And if you're trying to look at the reference I just said, Ya Shaisha Visruta, Rajan Svailoke Sadhu Sammata, Arundhati Taya Pesham Vasishta Pushtita Kritaha, which translates to Arundhati has crossed Vasishta, we have to look at the point where they are not behind or forward, where they're exactly on the meridian line. And that date, according to astrology, is 4508 BCE. So that is around 6,000 years ago. So that means it could have not been after that date because of this reference. So I know today I'm going to talk about how he came to the conclusion of the Ramayana, but to figure that out, we're also going to have to take the references from the Mahabharata. The one I just said was from Bhishma Parva. And we know that Ramayana came before the Mahabharata. So we know it is before 4508 BC. So let's try going a little bit before because we need to find an exact date. So this Vasishta Arundhati observation is very important. It is the start and the key of his research. And now I'm going to talk about the precession of equinoxes. So when we look at the Earth, we know that it is not round. It's round, but it's not straight. It's tilted slightly, and it rotates on an axis. And when you look where the axis points right now, it points to a star known as the Polaris, or in Indian astronomy, Dhruvatara, which means fixated star. It wasn't actually fixated, but it moved around very slowly. It took around 26,000 years to make an entire rotation. So Dhruvatara took an entire 26,000 years. But if we go back 30,000 years and we look at where that star has moved, you can see that there is a different star now. And that star is Brahma Rashi. And this is from the reference in the Ramayana, Brahmarashi Shudashcha Shudashcha Paramarshaya Prachilmanta Prakasante Dhrum Sarve Pradakshina. It means the great sages are making parikrama around the Brahmarashi fixated star, which again is not actually fixated, but it moves around slowly. So this points that it should have been estimatively around 13,000 BCE and before 4,508 BC. So anything after that is irrelevant to us. So this method of looking at the axis is known as the precession of equinoxes, and later on in his research he will use it to find out other sources of evidence. So we got the astrology evidence right now. Okay, we have the Vasishta Arundhati, and we have the fixated pole star and the equinoxes. And now I'm going to look at the seasons. So in the Ramayana, again, we're going to go to more references. And there's a small line, which is Chaitra Sri Malayam Punya Pushpita Kananam. In the auspicious month of Chaitra, the forest is blooming with flowers. Again, by using precision of equinoxes, you can find nowadays it is actually in Sharad Ritu or Hemant Ritu, not Chaitra Masa. So again, there must have been a millennia gap. That's what we understand. So we have one season evidence. So go on to other seasonal evidences. And another evidence is Nivritta Akasha Shaina Pushyanita Himamana. So this is, it mentions, this is Lakshmana saying in Aranyakanda, where the stars actually are in the sky during the time. And it says the sun is setting towards Pushya Nakshatra, but nowadays it's setting towards Purva Ashada, Uttara Ashada, or Shravanam. So again, there must have been some millennia gap. And again, by using precision of equinoxes, we find out that that date comes from around 17,500 BCE to 11,500 BCE. So we're going further and further back into antiquity. That's what it means. So I got seasonal evidence, I got astrology evidence as well. So now I'm going to go into oceanography, seismology, and chronology evidence. So I'm going to start with the chronology evidence. When we look at the Rig Veda, which is the oldest of the four Vedas undoubtedly, it is divided into many mandalas, which are like books. And they're not always in order from oldest to youngest. But basically, the oldest mandala is mandala 6. And there's a reference saying that Saraswati was the grand river during that time. Again, they don't mention exactly when it was. It's not astronomy or astrology anymore. So it's a little more estimation than perfect dates. So anyway, in Mandala 6 again, there's a reference that says Saraswati was a grand river. We fast forward sometime into the 10th mandala, which is a younger mandala, and we find that the Sindhu River is actually the dominant river there. And another reference is that the modern day Satluj, then known as Shatudri River, was flowing west. So this is an interesting observation because it shortens the whole timeline between around like 20,000 BC to around 13,000 BC, and then I'll explain why. So according to seismology evidence in the Gagar-Hakra Paleo channel, which is a very old paleo channel along the Indus Basin, we can find that this grand Saraswati River flowed around 20,000 BCE. But still, we don't know if this was written during the time of the Ramayana, because this is the Vedas, not the Ramayana. So that shortens it down to around 13,000 BCE and 11,500 BCE. And the only difference there is a matter of a few centuries. So now we go to all astrology evidence. We have the Polaris, the precession of equinoxes. We have what I just said, the chronology and the small g evidence, and we have the seasonal change in evidence. So with all of this, there are even more astronomy references, and as I said, astronomy is a very precise type of, it's a very precise type of study. So it'll give you even an exact second if it has to. So it is very, very accurate, the most trustable out of all of them. And there are way too many other astronomical references in the Ramayana and Mahabharata. As again, I said before, there are over 800 references, so I won't have time to say all of them. But it shows how the stars moved, not like okay, Arundhati crossed Vasishta, Vasishta crossed Arundhati, but it actually says exactly where it was and how it crossed the meridian. I don't have time to explain all of it, but it says exactly how it crosses the meridian, and there are also other seismology evidences even that prove it all goes down to the date of 12,205 BCE. So to conclude, we have seismology evidence, oceanography evidence, astronomy evidence, and seasonal changes evidence. With all of this, I think it would be very, very fair to say the Ramayana happened somewhere around 12,205 BCE. Thank you for listening to my talk. And I would like to again thank Nilesh Oak for conducting all of this research throughout the decades to come up with this amazing result. And it is very, very amazing. Thank you very much. If you have any feedback, please let me know.
Nilesh Oak is kind enough to be here today. And I would like to have everybody see Nilesh Oak. Thank you so much, Nilesh Oak, for coming and being there live. And I just cannot believe what's happening right now. It's all Daiva Sankalpam, I think. Please accept our token of appreciation to you because in my prayers, every time I used to think, when did Ramayana happen? When did Rama was there? Was it all, the civilization just happened 3,000 years back, but, we need to go a little far beyond. But the moment I heard your video, your YouTube, I was like, I felt like the purpose of my life is fulfilled. So that much was the impact that you had given. And I would, it's really a blessing for you to be there, for Rishi to present your findings and summary today at the Jagadaranda Karaka 2021. I would like a few words from you, Nilesh Oak.
Yes. Namaskar, everyone. I definitely would like to say a few words. In fact, I can say a lot, but I will not do that, not to scare any one of you. So first, thank you to Ramaji and Rishi. Rishi did a phenomenal job. I'm going to come back to what he said. I mean, he did such a meticulous narration. In fact, this really makes me feel good, and I feel confident that I can move on to researching other subjects, because I did this research I started 30 years ago, and I published my first book some 10 years ago, then the Ramayana book about 6-7 years ago. And since then, I feel like I am doing the research, but I also have a job to explain what I have done to others. I mean, that's natural. But what a pleasure. I mean, again, I will not be over dramatic, because it's just very difficult for me to explain what I am seeing, what we all are witnessing. So when a 12-year-old does something like this, we feel just naturally the joy, but we feel very confident. At least I feel a feeling of, possibly hard to describe, but I feel very content that, the it's like passing the baton, and the baton is in safe hands. Now, I want to come back to Rishi and tell him what people are talking about him. He may not know that, and Ramaji, you may not know that. But what I did when Rishi's mom shared a few notes that Rishi had done with me, and of course, without mentioning his name or anything, I just thought I will just share that in social media. So I did that today in Twitter, and I got number of comments. I got the comments right on the Twitter. I got comments in my direct message and so on. And one of the comment was, so I would say, Rishi, you might have heard this, that no good work ever goes unpunished. You might have heard that, right? So here is what people were suggesting to you, suggesting to me to convey to you, that actually they saw your notes, at least a few notes that they saw, and they said to me that I should be asking you, requesting you to essentially write cliff notes. And I presume or assume you know what cliff notes is. It's like on any subject you can have a good quick summary, a very crisp summary. So they were asking me that I should request you to write cliff notes on the dating of Ramayana, on dating of Mahabharata. And you actually, I wasn't surprised, but you surprised me by even going into Rigveda. And I had made a note to myself, like said, okay, the Rigveda, I should remind you, because your mom had just sent me the notes on Ramayana and Mahabharata. And such a smoothly, you also covered Rigveda because it's so internally connected. So now you have a additional work. And here is my promise. If you do the cliff notes, I will work with you to ensure that we publish that. I mean, we meaning you, publish that as a self-published book on Amazon so that it's available to people around the world. And in India, because if you print something here, it gets printed and it gets shipped to India, it comes out very costly for people in India. So in India, we will get it published through Subbu Publications, which is based in Bangalore and Hubli. And it actually has a huge reach right now. Okay, so of course we will leave it to people to decide if they want to take a copy of your book or not, but it will be such a marvel, such a wonderful thing for all the young audience and all the old audience. Okay, so the intellect, actually one of the comment, and Ramaji, tomorrow please do go to the email and see some of the comments that I have sent you. One of the great comment, again, not surprising, which said the intellect doesn't depend on the age. Okay, there is no correlation between the age and the intellect, and that they could just see through the notes that I shared. Okay, and a couple more things. The question comes, who are Vanaras? And I don't know, and you can nod your head, Rishi, either you or your mom. Are you guys familiar with a YouTube channel known as 21 Notes, like a number 21 and notes? No. Okay, so I think you are nodding yes, but okay. So in either case, I would say that all of you who are listening to this is a channel that has been built by my very good friend Yashadip Devdar. He's based in Bangalore. And this is a work of totally work of bhakti. I mean, he had a IT company, oil gas company. He made money. He said now he wants to focus on Rama. And so he is doing this. Essentially, the 21 comes from 21st century. So Ramayana for the 21st century audience, 21st century crowd. And one of the things that just reminded me, when you had this whole big group with masks, coming on the stage. And I said, many people look at the Vanaras and they say, were they the monkeys? And they were not the monkeys. They were human beings just like us, but wearing the mask. I'm just making a fun of it, but wearing a mask, like that was their gear when they're ready to go for a fighting, external gear. Okay. And so on 21 notes, you can see who were Vanaras, who were Rakshasas. And actually, he's taking people through Valmiki Ramayana, through all the 7 Kanda. Okay. And I'm working closely with him. So that's one. And the last one, since we are so much surrounded by the COVID, quickly want to mention that, it's perfectly okay, especially in India, what's happening, to feel anxiety and whatnot. But remember, there is a one verse in Bhagavad Puran which says, Sarvashrama prayuktoyam niyama kulanandana madbhava sarva bhuteshu mano vak kaya sanyama. No matter sarvashrama, no matter which ashram you are, how young you are, how old you are, one is that madbhava sarva bhuteshu. So we have to have that shraddha in the Rama. That is one expectation. And remember, when we are treating ourselves, it's not just the body that we are treating. Mano, vak, kaya. So kaya is a body, but then there is a mind, and then there is the intellect. So kaya is only 33% in terms of what we need to take care of, but we also need to be very positive. And the whole event that we have is to generate that positivity. So everyone, please stay positive. Humanity, we have seen so many other calamities. This is there right now, but it will pass. You can be very assured about that. So with that, again, thank you. And don't forget, Rishi, the task that you have in front of you, the Cliff's Notes for the dating of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Rigveda. Namaskar.
Thank you so much for the compliments. Uh, Thank you very much again for conducting all of this research, and I will definitely get started on the quick notes. So thank you very much for spending your time and being here, Nilesh Oak.
Thank you so much, Nilesh Oak. In spite of your late night, you came here and stayed through from the beginning, and also spreading so much of positivity, right? It's saying that this shall pass. We have seen much more calamities and wars, and this is just, a thing that we will just win over. That's why we are saying that yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhyuttana adharmasya Ratmanam Shijam Yahum. I will be there. And Yada is reiterating, reinforcing such things will happen with Rama's grace. Thank you so much, Nilesh Oak. In presence of you, I would like to give this certificate to Rishi Musti. The Yadas in Hindu in Me initiative is proudly presented to Rishi Musti for compiling and presenting the works of Sri Nilesh Oak on the historic Rama, dating of Ramayana as 12,209 BCE. I would like to tell this number should be in the heart of every youth, whoever is studying history, which can only date back to 3000 or 4000 BCE. Here we are announcing Ramayana as happened in 12,209 BCE. And this is such a great work and great message that every one of us here should be very, very proud of. Thank you so much for whatever is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just announce that the Cliff Notes by Rishi Musti are coming very soon.
Thank you so much.